Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is Miss Murphy with part 2 of the contour shoe drawing. So, now that we did part 1, which was to draw the outside edges and ridges, creating a contour drawing, meaning the outline of our shoe, now we're going to focus on the inside lines and details. So for this part, we are going to again think about proportions and how one part relates to another, which is what proportion is. And we want to look at our placement of different details throughout. And again, you want to make sure that you're using careful observation. So looking at your subject, making sure that you are truly looking and drawing what you see and not what you think you see. So I have my shoe set up in front of me. I have a little stand for it, so I'm just showing you. And now I'm going to think about all these other details in my shoe. So when I talk about proportion in here, you want to think about how, looking at the arch, where does the shoelace begin? So before I even draw any shoelaces, I actually like to draw the openings of where those laces come out. So what I do is look at this arch here, and I know that my first opening is at the top of the shoe here, and I'm going to draw that lightly. And then I look at these areas here and I count down. Now everybody has a different type of shoe. You might have an opening with circles, but I tend to count and go 1, 2, 3, 4. I see three sections here that I need to draw, right? And it's about this wide, so I know that it's going to go down this far into my shoe. And then what I do is just simply sketch those in lightly. So I know it's going to end right there, right? And then I'm going to begin with adding some of my details, but I'm going to add this part right here. So I know that my laces actually go through that, and this little strap here. So I have a unusual tennis shoe here. I'm going to add that little section and take my time to look at those details there. All right, so this is one of the tricky parts, and also I want to add a little bit on the other side here, which I didn't do yesterday, okay, because I know that I'm going to show my shoelace going across, okay. So now that I know where my shoelaces go in, remember to draw lightly. I kind of messed this one up, so I'm going to fix that here before I continue. All right, so now I am going to figure out where my shoelaces go in. I'm going to draw the first part coming out. I'm not going to worry right now about the part where I'm tying all the laces, on each side. But one thing you want to remember is, so with this opening here, as you can see, I have my lace coming out, but I also need to erase this little part and then make it look like it's coming out of the shoe. Now does this remind you of anything? Well, it should, because when we drew the forms and we drew winding objects coming out of our forms, we had to make it look like it was going in and out of that form. So we're doing the same thing, but now we're applying this in our observational drawing of our shoe. So I like to make this go slightly above the shoe here, okay? And then I know I don't even focus on all the laces yet. I just kind of add where I see them coming out in those sections. And I'm not going to see every part of the top here, but you want to make sure that you're erasing inside the laces so it does look like they're going over top of your shoe. And then I know that this is going to interlock here, and that interlocks there. And that this is the other side of my shoe where I have the other So I'm gonna add a little bit of that here, and then make sure that I'm taking my time to really look at where the placement is, because this takes a little while to do. So if it's crisscrossing, I have to know which one is on top. I know this one's on top, so I have to erase that mark. And then I know that I'm going to make some of these a little wider once I go back in. And I know I need to add that I'm going to draw the other side here. I'm just kind of suggesting some of the other side actually. And I'm missing some details here, which I'm going to get into, but I wanted to really focus on how to get those laces drawn in. I know this is going over, but this side is going to go down towards the front, and then I have another little like strap here, little opening that lace is going to go in, and they're interlocking on the other side. I'm going kind of quickly here in lieu of this demonstration. And then once I have my laces kind of drawn in, I like to go and see like what areas I need to really enhance. And then I look to see any details. So I have stitching here, stitching here, stitching. I'm really going to take my time to do that. So I like to do my laces before I do any details on the shoe, because that actually gives me another reference point. So once I have my laces on, then I can see where other things go, like these lines and patterns and designs on the shoe. So now that I have this placed in, I'm going to, and you could even wait till later to do the actual lace drawing, but I'm going to wait for that because I want to show the next part here. So now that you can see that I know where this part goes, right? I'd never added the tongue of my shoe, which should be coming up a little bit inside of my shoe there. And now this would be a good time to draw that in. It might have a little curve to it. I always like to draw this little curve here, okay? And now is a good time to really start looking at all the details in your shoe, such as stitching, lines, patterns. So now that I know where this part of the lace is, I know that I have also this design going down my shoe here, and I'm going to draw this arch lightly here. And I'm going to continue to add these details inside of my shoe by using everything else as a reference point. So again, what I mean by that is looking at where things go in relation to one another. So if I know that this little arch is here, and I know that I have this part of the design that I'm drawing, I know that this part of the design is right underneath this arch. So I want to make sure that I'm really looking at everything very carefully and making sure I get my details in there well. And take my time. I'm not going to worry about all the textures yet, but I'm going to place all these designs that I did not do before throughout my shoe to make sure that I have my design drawn in. So now we're focusing on the inside details. You want to take your time. So like I said, start with the laces, and I'm just kind of sketching throughout here now so you can see. Now that I know where this part of the lace is, then I can actually place like any part of the front design of my shoe as well as any parts in here. And I want to look all the way around and make sure that I got all those details. So it's really going to start coming together. And, usually around the edge of your shoe here, you might even want to make this a little bit thicker to really make the form of your shoe look like it's three-dimensional, because this is like the opening. You want to also, the other thing I like to check before I really continue is looking at the opening of my shoe here to make sure that it's not too narrow. So you want to compare and contrast, look at your shoe, Remember, think about, does the shoe actually fit? Because if this is really, really narrow, would your leg or foot go into that? So usually kind of good rule of thumb is like a few fingers can fit in there, not just like two. So if it's not wide enough, usually the opening of the shoe is going to be as wide as your ankle. So keep that in mind as you continue to draw. Make sure that you've scaled everything properly. And then, now that you have the laces, you're going to go in and add all those extra details. I'm going to do another video after this, but this is just to get you started on the next step. So you want to look at all the lines, all those contour edges, ridges, refining around anything that you didn't do previously, making sure that you erase any lines like that you don't see with overlapping laces. In my next video, I will talk about the laces, but I wanted to give you a start on adding your inside contour drawing details. And good luck with your next steps.